Hi, it's Panda Movies here. Today I'm going to explain the horror movie called Nine Dead. Warning, there are spoilers ahead. Enjoy the video. A masked straggler shows up and captures seemingly random individuals with no hesitation or remorse. First the owner of a prestigious Las Vegas establishment, then a luminary on screen, then a prominent legal representative in the Los Angeles jurisdiction, all captured in rapid succession and executed with masterful precision. Law enforcement is left helpless and confused, unable to decipher the hidden intentions of the kidnapper, even as one of their own detectives succumbs to the villain's lonely insanity. The true magnitude of the death toll in this kidnapping series and the motivating impulse of the perpetrator becomes clear when 9 people are trapped in 9 different locations in an underground fortress carefully constructed by the aforementioned masked bandit, all of whom are pawns in a vendetta. But the gun in hand and the death threat are only tools of his enforced destructive action. After a series of kidnappings, a group of 9 people are trapped in a chamber, their limbs chained with irons to sturdy pipes. Suddenly, a mysterious, cloaked figure appears and explains the purpose of their sinister meeting. Survival depends on unraveling the tangled web that binds their destinies together. It is terrifyingly proclaimed that unless this revelation comes true, life will die out every minute. With this ominous announcement, the kidnapper retreats and begins an unstoppable countdown. The group begins to introduce themselves and reveal snippets of their history together. Christian reveals a previous deal in which he borrowed money from Sully and dutifully paid off the debt on time. Coogan reveals his long-standing knowledge of the dark rooms of various prisons. Kelley and Jackson, who once engaged in romantic banter, confess their past emotional connection. As the group begins to contemplate a man-made charade, the ominous number returns and quickly silences Christian with a fatal blow. As he leaves the room, Leon desperately asks Sully to forcefully break his arm and free him from the chains that bind him. Seizing a fleeting opportunity to escape, Leon ventures forward to avoid the clutches of his captor. Unfortunately, his attempt to regain his freedom is thwarted when the hunter quickly retrieves his prey and leads Leon back to the chamber. In a merciless show, the attacker sets out to bring down Coogan, who previously revealed his deadly situation. As he approaches, the gunman whispers a mysterious reason in Coogan's ear, triggering a wave of desperate anger as Coogan bravely returns fire, but takes a fatal blow. After finally setting his sights on Leon, the perpetrator ominously decides that he will be the next to succumb to his deadly machinations. Along with the remaining group of 7, Ms. Chan acknowledges Kelley as her former legal representative after breaking into their premises 2 years earlier. The coven begins to see a connection between them and the perpetrator, Wade Greeley. The person who fired the gun returns, but having only patchy information, the 7 shoot Leon dead. While the theory is fraught with uncertainty, it is clear that Father Francis knows more than he cares to reveal, but he flatly refuses to divulge further details. It was eventually determined that Greeley did not commit the robbery. The real culprit, Christian, confessed to Father Francois that he had committed the theft to repay Sully. However, during the training presentation, Ms. Chan misidentified Greeley as the perpetrator, and Kelley sued him. At this point, the shooter intervenes again and tries to take out Eddie, as not all connections were made, but Father Francis gets in the way of the bullet and dies instead. When Kelley identifies the shooter as Wade, he vehemently denies it and walks away. As the gunman leaves the scene, Sully realizes that before he robbed Ms. Chan's shop, Christian ran out of guns and had to get one from Leon. The shooter reappears and points to Ms. Chan, but instead of tacitly agreeing, he gives her a note written in Chinese characters. She begs him in Chinese before being killed. Kelley begs him to release her so she can be with her son, but the gunman angrily berates Kelley for using her son as an excuse and storms off, not without first insinuating that Jackson is the ancestor of Kelley's descendants. Kelley affirms that Jackson is the biological progenitor of her male child and further discloses that she contrived evidence to incriminate Greeley, asserting the necessity of securing a triumph following a series of legal defeats. She also reveals that Jackson inadvertently aided her in fabricating said evidence, and that she previously terminated the life of an individual who subjected her to a non-consensual sexual violation, acting in self-defense, and subsequently concealed the occurrence when the violator's deceased body was discovered. Eddie comprehends that the assailant must be the paternal figure of Greeley, exacting vengeance, and the remaining quartet commence to ponder over Greeley's whereabouts subsequent to his incarceration. The perpetrator reemerges and perpetrates the demise of Sully, who exhibits no remorse for his deeds. With only Kelley, Jackson, and Eddie remaining, the trio grapples with establishing connections between Eddie and Coogan. Eddie hypothesizes that Coogan was alluding to being afflicted with acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, AIDS, and given Coogan's history of multiple incarcerations, he could have perpetrated a sexual assault on Greeley, infecting him in the process. Subsequently, the ultimate link is forged. Greeley sought to participate in an experimental pharmaceutical regimen for human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, treatment offered by Eddie's organization, but due to Greeley's criminal conviction, Eddie would have been compelled to reject his application. They explain this revelation to the shooter, who happens to be Greeley's father, prompting him to remove his facial covering and agree to release them all unharmed. Kelley, however, who has gradually revealed her true character, seizes the opportunity to abscond with the firearm and shoots Greeley's father, Eddie, and Jackson. Miraculously, Greeley's father, donning a Kevlar vest, briefly recuperates and discloses that throughout the entire ordeal, everyone has been under observation and that they now possess knowledge of the genuine identity of Kelley Murphy. In an instant, he is fatally shot in the head, while Kelley manages to evade capture as the authorities arrive at the scene.